So let's look at Mercaptan character. This is a sulfur flavour imparted to beer by a compound called methane thiol. There are really two aspects to this flavour, one that covers lager beers and one that covers hoppy ales. In the case of lager beers, Mercaptan character is generally a negative character. It arises from autolysis of yeast, the breakdown of yeast at the end of fermentation. And it tends to give a rotting characteristic. It smells almost like decomposing vegetables in a dustbin. Quite a negative characteristic. And brewers of lager try to prevent this character appearing in their beers by cropping their yeast early and by removing as much yeast as possible during the fermentation. However, this character is also a component of some types of hoppy ale, because some hops contribute the Mercaptan character directly to the beer when they're used on the cold side of the process, so-called dry hopping. And in that case, it's a positive character associated with the specific varieties of hops which are used. I've used the example of rotting vegetables in a bin as the negative characteristic found in lager, but on the ale side, it's more reminiscent of some types of cheese. For example, white French cheeses such as Brie and Camembert contain a lot of methane thiol, and in a hoppy ale, the flavour may remind you more of high quality white French cheese than a more negative note. So this flavour has two origins. In the case of lager, we have autolyzing yeast. In the case of dry hopped ale, we have the hops themselves. There is a third cause which is far less common, and that is the formation by contaminant bacteria. Typically, the growth of certain type of bacteria, strictly anaerobic bacteria, such as pectinatus, which only grow in lager beer. They produce a whole range of compounds which impart a very unpleasant sulphury character to the beer, and that sulphur character includes the Mercaptan character from methane thiol. This compound is really odour active. A few micrograms per litre will give us an unpleasant or pleasant sulphury character depending on the beer matrix. As a sulphur compound, it's easy for us to become adapted to the smell. So when evaluating beers with Mercaptan, first of all try a short sniff, moving the glass away from you to see if you can find it. Then, and only then, take a longer sniff. You won't find it so easily by tasting the beer though. This is more of an odour than a flavour. When tasters evaluate beers with Mercaptan, the most common confusion is with a closely related sulphur compound called onion character. This is the smell of dried onion from dimethyl trisulfide. The reason people confuse it is when you have beers with Mercaptan in there, the beer will naturally form a little bit of onion character from a chemical reaction between the Mercaptan and the beer. So because the two flavours are associated with one another, it's very easy for tasters to become confused. That's why we recommend that when you train, you evaluate both the Mercaptan character and the onion character. So really two aspects of this flavour. A positive part of the hop character in some dry hopped ales, and negative flavour in lager production. That's the Mercaptan character from methane thiol.